Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back into the show. Today, Evan Parker, CEO of Mantle. It's a pretty big day for Mantle, if I
Pretty big day.
say so myself. What is today? What is happening?
Today, the app launches. And I'm telling you, this day's been marked on the calendar since before there was a date on the calendar. Like just getting to today where we have the app out there in the iOS store, the App Store, the Google Play Store. It's like finally the Mantle product available. And my dog at this moment now excited. He's going to make a ton of noise. Um, just getting the Mantle app in people's hands, making it easy for people to access the community that we've been building over the last year.
And obviously, we've been working on Mantle together for a long time, but it started and has so far been just a website and
Yeah.
obviously media around it. What do you think the difference is going to be with the app now?
You know, it's interesting. When we started this whole thing, we could have gone and made an app on day one and just said we're gonna go all in on this path. And the decision I made at the time, and in retrospect, I wish it was a little bit different, but I also stand by the decision, the factors that kind of led us in this direction. You can create things so much easier on the web. It's really fast and easy to ship new updates and make things better. And so over the last year, we've been able to put out a lot of features and test a lot of things, some things that lasted for this the entire time. And some things after a couple of weeks, we're like, you know what, this isn't that good. This doesn't work. Let's get rid of it. And that's something that's really easy to do on the web. But if you do it on an app, you're sending everything to Apple to get approved and reviewed, and the cost of updates, everything is just a little bit more complicated. But not having an app meant that a lot of people who are used to having an icon on their phone that tells them, click me, click me, click me, it wasn't there. Push alerts didn't exist. So we couldn't say, hey, Buster just put out a new post on Mantle. You follow Buster. You should just jump in there right now and go see
That's
what
going
he's
to be,
doing.
yeah.
Yeah. Not having that stuff, I think, has been, to our detriment. But again, we had a decision based on the amount of money that we had, the time that we had, where do we want to spend it, and trying to get out there and get as many features out to people as possible and to test. Like I've said since day one, I know how I collect. I know how my friends collect. I know, like a couple degrees of separation, but I don't know how everybody collects. And so to build a product that we want to make for the masses, that's not just about sports cards or memorabilia, but it's truly about collectors in general and all these different collectible types. So it could be, backgrounds from SpongeBob, or it could be coins or stamps or whatever. The only way to really do that is to talk to people and see what people like and what people want. And in order for us to talk to people, we had to get things out there and see what they liked and just, say, all right, do you like this? No. Okay, let's come up with something different.
Yeah. I mean, it's so the last year really proved the concept because there's this great community of people who are collectors who I would imagine the people who are on Mantle now and that are active are web first, which
Hmm.
is a significant minority of I think the potential audience for the
Yeah.
product. And now that the concept has been proven, a lot of the stuff that works. Now everybody can join, and
Yeah.
there can be
Oh,
some real fun new
yeah.
postings on the platform.
And I'd say this, I mean, they're web first, but 70% of our usage is on the phone. So it's people who are taking a product that wasn't really built for mobile and using it on mobile. So the people who are coming every day want it on their phones and are willing to deal with a subpar experience because they like what we're building. Now we're going to give them something that was created specifically for that device, for that space, for that use case, which means to me, if we did this right, everybody who's been using it is going to use it more. They're going to like it more. It's going to be easier for them to get into the product. It's going to be easier for them to interact and to post and to comment or whatever. But then there's this whole cohort of people who were saying, you know what, I'm going to wait. That's not the way that I consume my content. I've got my X app, my Instagram app, my Reddit app, or whatever, and I'm not going to use anything that's not an app. And hopefully, those people now are going to be able to join. When we've walked around the National or Fanatics Fest or the Front Row Show or Burbank or whatever,
Yep.
we talk to people, the number one thing, the question that we get is there an app? And if the answer is no, then a lot of people are just going to say, well, screw it. I'll wait until there is one. Some people down, still sign up and try it and whatever. But the vast majority of people who want an app are going to hold off and wait until there's an app, or they're going to use a product that delivers that for them.
Yeah, I think activity even for existing users is just going to skyrocket. Those
Should.
push
Yeah.
notifications are lethal in terms of
Yeah.
like getting people to come back on
Oh,
for something cool. Like, can you imagine, uh, you know, Juan Soto the other day signs with the Mets, and you get a push notification being like, uh, "What to buy? Juan Soto game used home run
Absolutely.
bat, game
Yeah.
used home run jersey,
Hmm.
card." What are the things that people have posted about Juan Soto? Um,
And you
yeah,
know this better than anybody. It's all we're all competing for the same attention, right? Like at Mantle, we're competing for somebody to go to us versus LinkedIn versus a crossword puzzle versus a book, whatever. Like every single thing. People say, well, like, who's your competition? Like, we're not worried about somebody who's building a social network for collectors. We're worried about trying to get people to come to any social network collect for collectors versus all these other social networks or all these other apps or all these other experiences that people have. There's never been a time in history where people have had more choice for what they can spend every single minute on. And we're now fighting against 1,000 things to try to get you to spend that minute with us. And at least making it easier because you're going to get a push alert. Juan Soto signs 15 years, $765 million. The Athletic, ESPN, Yahoo, X, Instagram, you're getting all these notifications. And if you get one from Mantle, now we have a shot at getting you to jump into our experience and hang out and speak to all these other collectors about what this means. What's for sale? What does this do? Yankees versus Mets. Is his card market going to go up or down? Did he miss the boat because he's with a less iconic team? Does it not matter because he's still in New York? Like all those conversations can be happening. But if you don't know that they're happening because you clicked on the push alert that takes you to Yahoo Sports or the push alert that takes you to Reddit, then we're not in that you're not hanging out with us to have those same conversations that you would be otherwise.
totally. And I agree. I don't think the competition is in collectibles. I think the competition is in everything that isn't collectibles.
Exactly.
Um,
Exactly.
because like you know, Heritage selling the Wizard of Oz slippers, and Sotheby's
Hmm.
selling Apex, and Golden selling the home run ball. All these things are, big news stories that bring
Yeah.
new people into the space, which is really what we all need more than anything else.
Yeah, it's so cool to see. The New York Times had an article a few days ago about the MLB debut patches, for the Topps product and the Paul Skeens and the bounties that are going, around it. The Athletic, where I used to work, has a collectibles vertical. Brooks Peck runs it, and they've got a really good group of people creating content about collectibles. This article about the Paul Skeens card was not in the collectibles vertical for the Athletic. This was a New York Times article. And to your point, the ruby slippers for $32.5 million or the Otani ball, like these are things that are no longer being written about just in enthusiast communities and just in very targeted sites for collectors. These things are making it to the front page of a lot of really big global publications. People are talking about this stuff more than they ever have. But you read one of those articles, where are you going to then go and talk to other people who care about it, who have a perspective on it? And that's the thing that we're hoping to be. Like we don't look at ourselves again as competition to anybody. We want to really be Switzerland for people who collect. Like this is where you go because you want to talk about it, you want to research things, you want to show off the things that you have. You go to Mantle for that. That doesn't mean you can't go to eBay to buy. It doesn't mean that you can't go to collect to go read an article or the New York Times to read an article or go to Reddit to see something else. But we hope that you're coming back to us at the end of that journey and saying, okay, this is what I found out, or this is what I ended up buying, or this is what I'm thinking. And you go back to your community, to the people that care about the same things that you have and have those conversations.
Totally. And the algorithm is very friendly to new users as well. You pretty much
Yeah.
get your post shown to almost everybody that uses it. That's why one of the reasons why I share all my new big buys on Mantle first, because it's interesting to get the opinion from a lot of different collectors. Like on any other platform, pretty much only the people that follow me are going to see the uh, you know collectibles that I'm buying. So
Hmm.
there's nobody that's surprised if I show a Warren Buffett thing or a SpongeBob thing or a Lincoln thing or whatever it may be. Whereas on Mantle, you actually can get opinions from different people.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, it's fun to see people's reactions to things that have they haven't seen before, and honestly, things that other people have posted that I haven't seen before,
Hmm.
which has happened quite a few times. Do
Yeah.
you?
I mean, I think we're all, as collectors, we're curious by nature. And that's one of the things I love about what we've built is that somebody could post about something that I don't care at all about. I will never buy this thing. It makes no sense to me. I don't understand it. But like seeing their passion for it, seeing why they think it's cool, why they collected it, to me as somebody who's a collector and just curious by nature, I say that's really cool. Like I don't look at that item and say I want to buy it, but I look at your passion for it, your excitement for it, the reasons why you went down that path, and I say, wow, okay, I'm really excited that that thing exists, so somebody like you can go out and collect it. Collecting is not like this homogenous thing. We all have different reasons for doing it, and we all have different things that we love. And on Mantle, every single day, I'm being exposed to things that I wouldn't otherwise see because it's coming into this feed, and it's from people who have we all like the same sort of like umbrella thing. Collecting is like this thing that binds us, but what collecting means to each of us, the way that we collect, what we care about, can be completely different.
Totally. Do you have any favorite Mantle posts of all time? Like things that someone put on the platform where you're like, "Oh my God, this is
There,
insane."
there's one Mantle member who is he is like a photo matcher himself as a hobby, and he'll go out and buy game used jerseys, and he doesn't go out and try to go get expensive things. Like he's not going to Sotheby's and bidding on the NBA jerseys and walking home with a LeBron for 20, $30,000. He's finding a jersey that was worn in the Hula Bowl in 1997 by a guy who played in the NFL for a cup of coffee, and that you'd have to Google him just to even remember who he was. Yeah, but he goes and he gets these jerseys for a couple $100 off of eBay, and then he spends hours and hours and hours sifting through photos and video so he can definitively photo match it. It's not my gray, right? He doesn't have the certificate; it's done by himself, but he's not trying to flip it. It's just for him to know I was able to find this. I was able to do all the research. I now know that these things are connected, and like for him, owning the thing is only a piece of it. It's really doing all that work to kind of prove it out. And there was a member in the community who bought a football that had been used in one of the Patriots Super Bowls and just knew that the ball had been used, but with the certificate that came with the ball, it didn't say what play it was used in. And he posted about it. And the guy that I'm mentioning, the photo matching guy, he goes by not Todd Zeal on the platform. He took all the photos that were posted on the platform about the ball, went back, looked at photographs, looked at video, and he was able to at least, maybe not definitively again, but it was able to come back and say, I think that this was the play that your ball was used in. And you just don't see that on other platforms. You don't see people who are that passionate about it, but also just that excited to kind of share their passion with other people and willing to take the time and energy to go out and say, okay, hey, this is fun for me, and I'm going to go do this work for you because I enjoy this part, and you're going to get something out of it on the other end. And that's like you read that and you're like, okay, that's why we created this thing. It's for things like that to happen, and I don't see that happening on X. I don't see it happening on Instagram. I don't see it happening on Reddit. I don't see it happening on Discord, but it's happening on Mantle. We must be doing something right.
Yeah, stuff like that has definitely never happened in the collectible space. I mean, I've seen people do that in like photo editing, but even
Yeah,
then, usually people are just messing with each other. They're not
right.
actually doing the ask. It'll be
Yeah,
like, someone will ask for them to, like, can you remove this family member in my
right.
photo? And then they remove
Yeah,
you. That's what you'll get on other platforms. So
exactly.
shout out to Todd. That's amazing. Sounds like he has a job at Migrate if he ever wants it.
He's really good at it. I mean, he certainly when he shows stuff on the platform, you always get that. Oh, that makes sense. That looks like it's a match. It's impressive the amount of time and energy. I don't have that. Like I will buy something that's been authenticated. I'm not going to buy something in order to take the time and effort to authenticate it myself. I'm not that detail oriented and I don't have that attention span. So I appreciate anybody who does.
Yeah, I mean, for jerseys, it's so any sports memorabilia, it's so difficult
Yeah.
because there's just so much. I mean, if you don't know what game it's from, you're looking at
Oh, totally.
thousands of minutes of
Yeah.
game time, tens of thousands of minutes, hundreds of games.
Yeah.
Uh, and the photos might not even exist at all. So it might
Mhm.
just be completely wasted. Like the only things that I do, I photo match every SpongeBob piece that I buy. But that's because it's so easy. Like there's 30 episodes, they're 10
Right.
minutes each. I know them all by heart, and I know by looking at it which episode it's from. So all I
Yeah.
need to do is quick scroll and then, stop it on
Right.
where I think it is, and then I match the paint dots. But uh, jerseys, that's a
Yeah.
whole nother level.
He posted last week about a European Football League, like the NFL Europe, a jersey that was worn, and he just knew sort of the season based on the patches and things like that. And so he was able to at least figure out the season, and then he had to go from there and figure out the games and everything like that. And I'm telling you, like getting a LeBron jersey, you can see if the LeBron jersey's from 2022, you can watch, whatever it's going to be at most 41 games. It's not a small amount, but like, all right, he's wearing yellow. How many games did he wear yellow in this season? But NFL Europe, I mean, I don't even know how much footage exists that you're able to go out and watch and the camera angles and all that kind of stuff. So it's always it's impressive to me every time he posts something new. Like I'm going to learn something. I may not care about it for my own collecting, but I'm going to learn something.
Oh, 100%. That's incredible.
Yeah.
Um, what are some categories you want to see more of on Mantle? Are there any like specific sub niches that you're like, wow, if anyone's out there who collects this stuff, we really want them on.
I mean, all this. I mean, I know that that's a cop out. Right now, it's the biggest topics, right? People are talking about sports cards. They're talking about memorabilia. There's TCG and Pokemon. We have some watch posts and cars and things like that. I just really get geek out about the enthusiast community. So if like you go into cars is obviously incredibly broad. If you go into Ferraris, that's broad. If you go into Testarossa, like you just and then it's 93 or whatever. Like I'm excited. We're gonna have in late December, so probably in another week or two, we're gonna be debuting a feature that we're calling groups. And groups is essentially like a Discord server or a subreddit within Mantle, and saying like now you're on this thing and the way that Mantle exists, it's a continuous feed. It's based on the things that you follow. So if I don't collect stamps, so I maybe I'm not following the stamps vertical, but you collect currency, so currency's in hitting you, and you see all the things that anybody's posting that are tagged to that. But if you really want to go even deeper and you want to say, okay, I want to now hang out with the currency people and not just see the best performing currency content that hits my main feed, but I want like these guys who are just talking about the minutia. I want to go into that. Then we're going to have these sub communities, these rooms that you can go into that go even more niche. And that's where I get really excited, finding the people who want to collect, NBA junk wax from the 1990s, which is something that's what I grew up on. I've got a lot of junk wax. Unfortunately, none of it in decent condition because it's all from when I was a kid. Um, Although I've been able to buy a couple of cards since then that are like the ones that I had as a kid or wanted as a kid and just never could get anything that's decent. But I can go into that room and talk to other people who really care about this stuff in deeper ways. And I think that's when this becomes really powerful. Because right now, everything, you're talking to everybody about everything. And which means you can learn a lot, you can have some fun, but that means that some people might feel like, hey, this feed has a lot of stuff I don't care about. And other people might say, I'm talking to a lot of people but I really want to talk to just the ones that truly care about this than people who are just seeing it in their feed and going to jump in and say, oh, that's interesting. But like the people who really care. And that's what we'll be able to deliver before the end of the year.
Totally. Yeah, there's so much opportunity. I think like almost everybody collects something.
Yeah.
Uh, whether it be, on more of a male predominant side, things like obviously sports collectibles, but there's more and more women every year in sports collectibles too.
Hmm.
To things obviously more common on the women's side, like handbags or things like that. There's everybody loves something
Yeah.
and either collects something or wants to have
Yeah.
enough so that they are collecting it. Uh, I
I'd even
mean,
throw out a third category to that. And there are people who may not care to ever have it or don't imagine that they'll ever have it, but have a lot of appreciation for it. And
sure,
something that we've really tried to do is kind of divorce the word collector from like possessing the item. Because at the end of the day, you think about the ruby slippers from, Wizard of Oz. Like there are, I think, three copies of them. One's in a museum, one's in the Smithsonian. I forgot, and then the one that just sold. You're never going to own one of those, right? Like the likelihood only one is in the public right now, and it just got sold for $32.5 million. Probably won't get sold for a while, and when it does, let's just assume that the vast majority of people who are going to be on Mantle are not going to be able to purchase it. And we don't want to be creating a place that is only for the people that own these things. Like, I think about the T206 Honus Wagner. I've got that's a replica that I've got on my mantle behind me. How many of those things exist today? 40 of them or so.
Yeah,
All of them are worth hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars. Not that many people are ever going to have it. Not that many people will ever even be in the same room as one of those. But there are a lot of people who appreciate it and appreciate what that card means to collecting, what that card means to baseball, what that card means to nostalgia or whatever it is. And it was really important to me when we were setting out to do this that we were creating a space that was going to be as welcoming to the person who just thinks the T206 is a cool card as it is to the person that actually owns a T206. Like the difference between those two people from a love of the card and a passion around baseball and card collecting there may not be a big difference between the two. There's probably a big difference between how much money is in their bank account, but that doesn't mean that one deserves to like appreciate that item that anymore, in my view.
totally. And there might even be another category, which is someone that would own it, but they just physically can't.
You
I
can't.
would love to own dinosaur fossils. I
Yeah.
live in a New York apartment.
Right.
Where's it gonna
Right.
go?
Yeah.
You
Yeah,
know,
yeah, right. Even if you had the $6-10 million or whatever to go
where's it
buy
gonna
a skull,
go?
like yeah, it's not really gonna fit. I get it.
So there's so many different people. Um, and then there's two or three different categories of ownership as well. Like obviously there's private ownership, which people share lots of things that they own. I share things that I own on Mantle. But then there's also public ownership, which is the public museums all over the
Mhm.
world that
Yeah,
own assets. It's people like Ken Griffin who go out and buy the best things and then just give it to museums. He announced the other
right.
day that he's giving Apex to the Smithsonian in New
Yeah.
York for public display. Like these are effectively taxpayer owned
Hmm.
assets. Um, so everybody is every if the Smithsonian contributes uh, tax revenue to, or not, sorry, not the Smithsonian, if the Natural History Museum contributes tax revenue to New York City, effectively, every New Yorker is a collector of every
I like
item
that.
that's in that museum.
Never thought of it that way. I like it. You've
And
seen Apex. Like I read that the article the Times last week.
I touched Apex.
Oh, I didn't know that. You didn't tell me that part. Yeah. Was that allowed or did you sneak it when the
No, it was allowed
curator
because
had her
they
back to
had
him?
some of the scales weren't
Yeah.
actually attached because they were too fragile, and so
Yeah.
they put them on a table and they let us touch
I
it.
don't know if you saw that in the New York Times article. It's like some guy holding one of the scales, like leaning on a ladder. This is how they're doing it. This thing is a $44 million dinosaur fossil. And you got this guy who's like suspended on a rickety Lowe's ladder trying to put these things together. I just had assumed it was a lot more scientific. People would be in like white coats and there'd be like things suspended from the ceiling. It felt a little bit lo-fi.
Well, what's funny too about that is the expectation was that it would sell for like 3 to 5 million.
Yeah.
So that 44 is a retrospect number. That was
Yeah.
not a I don't
But
think
I
anyone
mean,
was expecting that.
you know this that better than most, certainly better than I do. But for a lot of these auctions, the slippers are the same, the Otani ball. You need two people with a lot of money who both want the same thing, and then throw out the expectations, throw out the assumptions, and that thing can go for any amount of money. I mean, is Apex worth $44 million to anybody but the two that were at the end of that bidding? Maybe not, but it doesn't matter. Two people wanted it bad enough, two entities wanted it bad enough that you could bid it up that high. I mean, that's the amazing thing about the category at that level. It's, I guess, at any level, if there's an auction, how much do the two people who want it most want it?
Yeah, and if there's two people and an institution bidding against it, like
Right.
then it just adds a whole nother layer. But yeah, you really only need two people, but anything more than two, and it's
Yeah.
just gonna go insane. I
Yeah.
mean, that's what happened. There were three bidders on Apex, at the above like the $25 million mark,
It's
and one of
crazy.
them didn't even enter until it was at like 30 something.
What do you think? That's mind-boggling to me that somebody was sitting there. And do you think that they were just waiting, that they just felt like, let's not waste our time, we'll just jump in when it seems like it's getting close? Or did the bidding frenzy tell them hey, this thing is actually cooler than I thought. I better get in now because I wasn't that interested at $10 million, but at
No,
30, now
no,
it's me.
I don't think anyone would be that impulsive with something like
Yeah.
that. I think everybody saw it in person, everybody got the
Yeah.
tour, that sort of stuff. But I do think that they probably waited until the very last second when it was about to end. When they did like one of the final calls, they had that
Yeah.
ready. They had that their person in the building ready to go.
They just
Uh,
wanted to make a splash.
yeah, yeah.
I respect it.
It's crazy though. But yeah, there's so many different types of collectors, and if I had to throw a number on it, there's probably more than 1 or 2 billion collectors worldwide of
Yeah.
something, anything. Like, you know, everyone has a collection or
Mhm.
had a collection as a kid of something,
Yeah.
and it's like one of the things that just makes everybody happy.
Yeah, I mean, we've read stats that say 60 something, 65% of adults in the US consider themselves a collector. There are obviously scales to that. There are people who have three or four things and they're a collector of that three or four and they don't need to join an enthusiast community for it or they're not constantly thinking about it, all the way up to people who have, dedicated every available dollar, every available minute to working on their collection. So there's a spectrum. But if that number is even close to accurate, you're talking about I don't know, 250 plus million people who are walking around who think about this as something that they have as a passion of theirs in a way that connects people. And we say it on our end, like your collection deserves a community. These things are a lot more fun when you're talking about it with other people, when you're learning about it with other people, that this isn't something that you're doing by yourself, sitting in a dark room and you've got your couple of things. Like, for us, we just wanted to build something that could connect people because for anything that exists, if you collect it, there's probably somebody else who does too. There's probably a lot of people who also collect that same thing. And if you can't find them, then you're sitting around thinking this is the thing that only I care about. But if you just knew that there's a guy 2 blocks away from you and there's a person on the other end of the world as you who like the same things, and we can now be connected because there's a platform built to bring us together to allow us to communicate about these things that we love. I think a lot of people are going to jump at that, even if they're on the end of the spectrum where they only collect a couple of things and they don't think about it as their identity. There's still a way for them to get deeper down the rabbit hole for the things that they love.
Totally. Yeah, now there's so many companies, Fanatics obviously being one of the big ones in the sports space that are investing so much in the experience for collectors. We were both at Fanatics Fest.
Hmm.
No one has ever invested that kind of money
Oh,
in this space. Like that is not something that has ever happened before. And I think the long-term impacts of that are pretty significant. Because
yeah,
before that, there are like there really aren't any sports card people who have more than like 100,000 followers on social, right? So
right.
when you think about that, you think, okay, well, the potential audience can't be that much bigger than 100,000.
Hmm.
But the way that you grow that is by giving people incredible experiences that bring them
Yeah,
closer to the industry, to the hobby, and uh, you know, having every superstar. Like you turned right and Tom Brady was there. You turned left and Dr. J was there. All the
hmm,
top streamers are in the same building. Uh, those kind of things are going to have great impacts on the hobby long term, and I just want to see
yeah,
more of it in every space. Like
absolutely.
every sub niche of collectibles has room to be modernized. I don't know if you've ever been to like a coin show or like
Yeah,
some of these other shows. Like they're so old fashioned. Like they
mhm,
need to be modernized and made cool because there's a lot of I think potential revenue streams for people like you're talking about for the collector who's not going to go in and just, flash like $10,000 cash and buy a
absolutely.
buy a coin or a Rolex. Like there's
Yeah,
there's money to be made from
totally. And,
from
and
collecting.
on that, part of why we built Mantle is because a lot of these communities have been using old school message boards that look like they did in 2005, like at the dawn of the internet communities, when Alexis Ohanian was building Reddit. Like this is the competition that he had at that time. It's people on these old school message boards, and many of them have not changed how they operate, how they look since that point in time. And so, can we create something that's easier to use, that's actually built for today, that has features that people are more used to, be able to have photos and video and all that stuff. So that's part of why we built Mantle. But the other thing is that there's a lot of gatekeeping in collectibles communities. There's a lot of people that say like you don't own this or you haven't been here as long as I have. You don't know these things as well as I know it. And as a result, your opinion isn't valid or you don't belong here. I think one of the things you're talking about Fanatics Fest that I appreciated the most about that event is that the goal was to bring people in who weren't already card collectors. This wasn't saying come in here because you go to the National every year, come in here because you are somebody who owns the most obscure, rarest cards in the world. It's saying, I don't care if you've ever collected a card. I want you to come in because Speed is going and running the 40-yard dash over there. And Travis Scott is passing out cards over here. And you can go through the WWE entrance, experience, and you can pretend that you're, Triple X or whatever. And Triple H, I guess that's more appropriate, Triple H. Like they wanted all of those people coming in and saying like, come hang out with us because you like those things. But by the way, we've got a whole card show over there. You should walk by. You should go grab something. By the way, there's sneakers back here. Mitchell and S over there. There's autograph signings over there. That's the way that this ecosystem is going to grow. Is not just saying, hey, if you're already one of us, you can come in, and if you're not really, you don't belong here. But instead saying, we want everybody who's even thought about a card in their past to come in and hang out because that's how we're going to get more people. I mean, for Fanatics, it's how people are going to go buy things on Tops or sign up for Fanatics Live or whatever. Makes a ton of sense for them. But I think it's better in general for the ecosystem just to get more people exposed to the things that we love. This is going to be so much better for everybody if more people are in it. Instead of being exclusionary, saying, let's all come in and do it. There's enough stuff out there for all of us to collect different things that we all love and appreciate. I think this is a much better ecosystem if it's open to new people, if it's open to people who know less than us, don't have as much money or whatever those things are to say, hey, come on in. There's always a way. There's something you can get or something you can look at, something you can learn. And we're going to be here to help shepherd you and make this thing that's fun. Because at the end of the day, there's so many easier ways to make money. There are easier ways to spend your time. There are less stressful things to do with your hobbies than collecting if you don't get a lot of joy out of it. And if you get joy out of it, for me, I want to spread that with other people that I interact with.
Totally. Yeah, and like the thing that I love about collecting, especially recently, is just like the thrill of the hunt. Like finding
Yeah.
new things, finding out about new things, trying to identify what are the most interesting things in, a sub niche. Like we were talking a few months back about like stock certificates.
Yeah.
And, back in the day, every issued share of stock would be printed out on a physical thing. And there's some out there that are signed by like Thomas Edison, and there are
Yeah.
some out there that are signed by like presidents of the United States. Like
Yeah.
there's insane stuff in that category.
Yeah. And you turned me on to it. I ended up, because you flagged it for me. I got a certificate from 1926 for some shares of Converse, and this was before the Converse All Star had been created. It's before Chuck Taylor. He had been a manager as part of the Converse company at that point, like managing their basketball investments or they're managing their basketball team, whatever it was. But the Chuck Taylor that shoe had not been named for him yet at that point, and it's signed by Marquise Mills Converse. It's signed by the guy who founded it. It's now going through authentication. I'm hoping it comes back, and I have zero doubt that it's authentic, but like going through that process. And this is something from 1926. It's before the Great Depression. It's a physical piece of paper that's been signed in a fountain pen by the guy that created Converse. I've got his autograph on something. That's insanely cool. I got one from Planet Hollywood recently that it's all facsimile autographs, but it's like Schwarzenegger and like all these like huge stars, Sylvester Stallone. None of it, they're not authentic autographs because at that point you're certainly not going to send 5 shares over to Arnold to have him sign for everybody who invested in the restaurant. But that kind of there's so many categories out there. There's so many things. A week or two ago, there's the meme coin that jumped out from Enron. And there's the ticker history, who I know is like they have Enron stock certificates from 2002 that are signed by the people who were running Enron at the time before everything collapsed. I mean that's pretty cool to me.
Yeah, totally. I remember the first big stock cert buy that I made was I wanted to find the parent company of the Sweet Corporal company,
Yeah,
Honus Wagner card. And I wanted to find some from around, roughly the same time. And I
Hmm.
did. I have like 100 of them now, all from around roughly the period when they were
Wow.
producing the cards
Hmm.
for that company.
That's really cool.
Because I was just, I'll never own a Wagner. I guess this is about as close as I can get,
Yeah,
owning the company that produced it.
I like it. I don't know that I would have come up with that. So that's a cool idea.
Yeah, I mean, stuff like that is just so much fun. You know, and then you just go down these rabbit holes of like, when I first started buying SpongeBob, I looked at every other major cartoon too, and I studied them all. Like I know, exactly how much Simpsons stuff there is, and Family Guy, and Studio Ghibli, and old Disney movies, and all this stuff.
Yeah.
Um, and apart from just loving SpongeBob more, um, understanding the population and the supply of any category that anyone gets into is so
Yeah.
important. And I very quickly realized that there was about 20 to 25 times more from The Simpsons than there was with SpongeBob. The episodes are 3 times longer, and they did it for decades by
Yeah.
hand, whereas SpongeBob, 10 minutes, and they only did it for one season. And a lot of them were thrown away because they didn't know if the show's going to be a success or not.
Which is
So,
crazy. And
yeah,
and
it's
you said
crazy.
it 1,000 times, but you think about something like SpongeBob, the people who grew up watching that are getting to the age now that they've got a little bit of money and they're kind of going back, they're getting nostalgic about the things from their youth. You got to it earlier, in another 2 or 3 years, it could be a category that there's nothing left and everything that exists is incredibly expensive, but you figured it out before anybody else who grew up at the same time as you had started even thinking about it.
It's true. And I think on top of just, that I'm lucky enough to be able to like collect some of it, I knew which episodes resonated the most. So there's this one episode, it's called SB-129, and it released on New Year's Eve, 1999, and it's about the future. In the episode, Squidward goes to the future, 2,000 years in the future for the year 2000. And then he goes in the past about all this and that. And there's literally documentaries about this one episode on YouTube that have like 10 million views. It's such a phenomenon. It's insane. But these guys who bought most of the stuff in the early 2000s because the auction house that Nickelodeon worked with went bankrupt, they sold it in bulk to like 3 or 4 collectors for like basically nothing. These guys think all episodes are equal. So I come in and I buy everything from this episode. And I get a call. I get a call from one of the guys about a month ago. He's like, "Can I pay 5 times for everything from that episode back?" And I was like, if I wasn't a collector, I would totally do it. But
Right.
I'm a collector. Like if I sell you this back, I can't get it back. And
Hmm.
I think these are the competitive advantages that young people who are
Yeah.
interested in things that they grew up with and really know it inside and out. Like what makes
Yeah.
this episode more special than that episode? What makes this game more significant than that game?
Yeah.
Those are the sorts of things that give you an advantage over the older collectors who have just,
Totally.
bought it as an investment.
Yeah, and I think the other piece is that you bought it, I assume, saying, you know what, I love this show. If at the end of the day they're worth the exact amount that I paid for them in 10 years, then I still got to own these things that connect to my past that I think are really interesting and really cool. And if you go into these things with like that passion, that love, kind of that PC mentality, this is something that I want to own and to keep.
Yeah.
If you don't make money off of it, obviously everything, everybody's different, but if you don't turn this into a ton of cash, you still got some value, personal value out of owning it. But the fact that you go in with that mindset, then you have this opportunity to also make money one day off these things that you love, that you were like the steward of, makes it that much cooler.
Yeah. I mean, I'm a little bit different than most collectors. My expectation is that I can make content about this item, and
Yeah,
if it's literally worthless, I will have still, you know, been happy about the purchase.
yeah,
And if you go in and you're okay with it going to zero, or absolute worst case scenario, it acts as future gifts for other
yeah.
people that you love with similar passions. Like I've given a ton of SpongeBob drawings to my friends who are like about the same age as me, because I know they love the show as much as I do, and their reaction is worth a hell of a lot more than a couple $100,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah, I've
No,
gotten
no doubt about
smarter over
that.
the years. I know you have too. Just like trying to narrow in on the best way for me personally to collect. And there was a while that I was, Bowman drafts would come out, and I would pretend that I was Major League Baseball GM, and I would, I'm a Dodgers guy, and say, okay, who are the Dodgers that are in this year's product that I think will one day play well? And I've got a bunch of, Diego Cartaya and Miguel Vargas cards that may never be worth what I paid for them because I was trying to pretend that I was Andrew Friedman and I was making decisions on the Dodgers' future roster. It's not my job. I'm not good at it. And over the years, I've said, okay, like every time I try to project to the future and figure those things out, I come up short. Why don't I buy the things about people, players that I love today or that I love from the past, things that have a connection to me or connection to my family, a connection to the teams or the things that I love. I've got a lot of Vin Scully stuff. I went to school to be a sports broadcaster because I grew up with Vin doing the Dodgers games and hearing him and Chick Hearn doing games in LA. I said, okay, that's the career that I want. So I bought things from them. I've got a Vin Scully signed check that like for a limo ride that he took. Like that's not something I'm expecting to make money off of. And if I never make a dollar off of it, it's okay. I've got something that Vin signed. I got something that was that he touched and was cool to him. Like that's it took me a while to get here to say let's if everything goes to zero or if I die before I can sell it, what are the things that will bring me joy when I have them sitting behind me? And if the answer is this thing doesn't bring me joy now, I should either not buy it or if I own it, I should get rid of it, give it as a gift, sell it, whatever it is. But I should stop trying to think about this as an investment, going first from the passion standpoint. And some of those things may end up making me money. But at the end of the day, if I just go with passion first, I'm not going to lose.
And it's funny how that works because usually the people who buy for passion end up doing the best financially
Yeah. Yeah. I
because
think so too.
they're the only ones who are gonna like anyone else who buys an item, it goes up 3, 4x, they're gonna sell it. But the
Right.
reason why people get the 4,000x is because they loved it and they didn't want to sell it. And then
Right.
all of a sudden it's like family changing money.
Right. Yeah. You
And
can't say
then
no.
and then you have
Irresponsible to say no.
yeah, yeah. The second the potential money starts affecting people more than just yourself, you
Right.
have somewhat of an obligation to at least sell something.
Yeah.
Um, but
I
some
don't think
people
that's
do.
going to happen with my Vin Scully check, but hopefully something I have in
Yeah,
this place world.
I see the pencil ghost, right? Maybe.
Yeah, got the ghost right behind me. I picked up a couple of the WNBA in a blind box. I got two Cameron Brink from a blind box player break. Like what they're doing. I mean, there's like all the stuff behind me. I have a connection to. It's the Kike Hernandez, game worn signed cleats or like everything behind me. I feel like that. If you came in here and you just looked at that wall, you could get a picture for who I am, and it would be moderately accurate. Everything there, you could say, okay, I can see why Evan would own that.
Yep. That's a lot of fun. So where should people go to download the app if they haven't yet?
Yeah, if you haven't downloaded the app, it's in the App Store, it's in the Google Play Store. It's called Mantle, Mantel. Behind me right there, name for the mantelpiece that you'd have at your home to show off the things that you love the most, but also a little bit of a nod, spelled differently, but a little bit of a nod to Mickey Mantle and what he's meant to collecting into the hobby. And we're at On Mantle, ONMANTEL on all the socials. Buster is you are the mastermind of those social channels, and so hopefully, if people are watching this and they're not following us already on Instagram and Facebook and TikTok and X and everywhere else, that they come and follow us. But the app is out. Download it. Come hang out.
Yes. Most
Just
importantly, get on the app, make an
get on
account.
the app. Come hang out with us. Everything is free. It's a lot of fun. Some really good people on there, and it's only going to get better as more people come on and we start creating more experiences for the masses.
Yeah, it's like what social media used to be like. You
Yeah, and
know?
you have a chance to get in early. You have a chance to get the username that you weren't able to get on anything else. Like this is like come on in early, stake your claim, help us shape the way that we talk to each other, the way we interact with each other. Anybody who's in there today will shape what Mantle will become. You can come in 5 years, it'll be a fully baked product, and you'll just have to accept the way that this thing is kind of grown. But if you're in there today, you have a real chance to say, "Hey, I like this. I wish that can you add this." I want it to look like this. And we're taking the feedback from our community. We're making decisions every day based on what our community is telling us they want and they don't like.
Yeah, for what it's worth, great usernames on platforms become tangibly valuable
There
over
you go.
time.
There you
So,
go. Man,
if
maybe I should squat on all the good ones.
yeah, I'm thinking the same. Might have to sign up with a couple emails.
Right.
Just snag at Honus
Yeah,
Wagner at Mickey
exactly.
Mantle. Uh,
There is an at Honus on the platform. So Honus is taken. I don't think Honus Wagner's taken, but there is an at Honus.
well, some ideas for anyone out there.
There
Maybe
you
you
go.
can maybe that's your 4000X collectible, your Mantle username.
Love it. Yeah, I love that.
All right. We will see you all on the Mantle app.
Thanks, brother.
Peace.